to kids out to fly them to teach them about aviation. Who does that? He collects bicycles during Christmas to give to children who otherwise wouldn't have one. He collects turkeys to pass out during Thanksgiving. He started an anti-bullying program to help kids who are bullied. And Daryl is also a college graduate with a bachelor's degree. Daryl has been vocal about racism and has protested in front of the courthouse on several occasions. He advocates for individuals who are falsely convicted of crimes they did not commit. And I can say from personal experience that confronting racism and injustice comes with a price. The words racism or racial profiling are treated as taboo by many public officials. It's easy to deny something is happening if it's not happening to you. While any act of racism or racial profiling is dirty, the words are not dirty words. Racism happens, and it's okay to talk about it. We must be honest about it, and it must be addressed. But sometimes public officials get upset and defensive. Many times you will get retaliated against in one form or another. 4 years ago, Daryl was arrested while driving home from work. An officer followed him for a short distance and finally stopped him. Several other officers arrived. The officer asked Daryl if he could search his vehicle. Daryl consented because he said he had nothing to hide. There were no drugs found in his vehicle and no drugs found on his body. There was no drug paraphernalia found. But an officer claimed he saw Daryl's hand go toward his mouth. Based on that and the claim that his tongue was white, the officers decided that Daryl must have had some crack cocaine and chewed it up and swallowed it, even though there was no evidence of his ever having any crack cocaine. The officers transported Daryl to the hospital. If Daryl had swallowed drugs, it could have been deadly, but the officers did not ask for any testing to be done to see if crack cocaine was in his system. Daryl's emergency room report does not indicate any drug-related problems at all. After the hospital visit, they took him to jail. If the police believed that Daryl had swallowed crack cocaine, there were several things that they could have done to verify that. They could have swabbed his tongue and tested it, since they claimed it was white with crack. They could have gotten a urine test, a blood test, or a hair follicle test. They didn't do anything. Daryl said it felt like deja vu. He was once again being arrested for something he said he didn't do. Daryl bonded out of jail, and the next day, due to his parole status, was tested for drugs. Daryl tested negative, as he's done with all of his prior drug tests. If Daryl had ingested crack cocaine the day before, it would have been seen, it would have still been in his system and showed up on the test. Daryl has been waiting for his trial for the past 4 years so that he can get on the witness stand and prove his innocence. A few weeks ago, although Daryl had not violated the terms of his bond, had not committed any offense, is not a threat to society, and is not a flight risk, he was picked up and placed in jail on what they call a blue warrant. What I have learned about a blue warrant is it's usually issued at the direction of a local parole officer or the district attorney. And it's usually done if a parolee moves without permission. tests positive for drugs, fails to report, or has been charged with a new crime. None of that applies to Daryl. His arrest for looking like he put something in his mouth was 4 years ago. So the question is, why was Daryl Davis really picked up and placed in jail where he cannot be bonded out? Is it a case of retaliation? To top it off, 2 days ago, the district attorney, maybe it's 3 days ago now, the district attorney, Jacob Putman, suddenly decided that he's going to recommend that Daryl Davis be given up to life in prison if he can get a conviction. And make no mistake about it, anything done at the district attorney's office is done at the direction of the district attorney. His assistants work for him. Ironically, as politicians usually do, when Jacob Putman was running and campaigning to become district attorney, he went to the black community promising that he was going to be fair to the black community and asking for their support and vote. Guess who his biggest supporter was? Daryl Davis. Daryl Davis worked to help get a man elected who is now trying to help him be placed in prison for possibly the rest of his life. So why are we here? Since Daryl is sitting behind bars, he cannot pay his car note or his house note. He is subject to losing everything he has worked so hard to get. I see Daryl Davis as my brother, my father, my son, my cousin, my friend. And that's how we as a community must look at him, because the way this system is set up, this can happen to anyone. The next time, it could be your son, your brother, or your father. We need to give Daryl a little financial support to prevent him from losing everything until his case goes to trial. In Matthew 25, Jesus speaks about those in need. It says, "For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me." Then the righteous will answer him, saying, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you? Or thirsty and you give us drink? And when did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you in prison and visit you?" And the king will answer them, "Truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers, you did it to me." Daryl has spent a large amount of his time given to the least of these. And now he is the least of these, and he needs our help. And some may ask, why are we doing this in a church? Because people have a problem doing things in church when they shouldn't. And you know, Martin Luther King, he was a preacher. It started in the church. The church is the heart of the community, and always has been. And you know, Martin Luther King, now that he's dead, you know, everybody, oh, he was great. They talk about his beautiful dream. But when he was alive, he was a troublemaker, causing problems, that's what they said. And so there is a price to pay for that. But we must remember that Jesus was a community activist. He was an advocate, and you know, he paid a price. But so we need to help Daryl. But thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to me, and thank you for anything you can do for Daryl.